Now, I truly love the United States, and this really is the land of opportunity. However, it is because of these opportunities that more and more Americans are putting themselves into severe debt in order to look successful. And I want to talk about the number one reason why Americans are poor, because this is something that you might not even think of. Now, most people assume that their housing costs are what is keeping them poor. But the truth is that when it comes to your home, that is potentially an asset. And if you're renting a house, then this necessarily isn't a debt. Now, that brings me to the number one reason why Americans are poor. And it is because of our choices in transportation. That's right. Now, according to the American Public Transportation Association, they say that a single household can save $10,000 per year by eliminating one car. That is huge. Now, if you would have done this 10 years ago, that's a substantial amount of money. Just think about this. Let's just say it's not $10,000 per year. Let's just say you were able to save up $10,000 10 years ago. If you had taken that $10,000 and put it into an investment, you wouldn't be poor. Not at all. Just consider this. If you put $10,000 into Tesla, you would have roughly $2 million today. If you put it into Bitcoin, you would have more than $15 million today. And even if you put this $10,000 into something that returned a 10%, you would still have over $25,000. But instead, many households spent far too much on their transportation, and this is the result. They have no money, they have too much debt, and they consider themselves poor. Think about it. How much is your monthly car payment? Let me know down in the comment section below. On average, here in the United States, a new car payment at the end of 2022 was over $700. For a used vehicle, that is $563. Just 5 years ago, that amount was $525 and $389 respectively. That's a huge payment, especially when that is not all of it. There is still more that you need to pay. Consider this. You have your car payment. Yes, that is over $700. That's a little steep. Then you got car insurance. You have gasoline. You have maintenance. And you even have taxes. All those things add up. So the majority of people are paying $8,000 to $1,000 every single month just to keep one car. Let's say you have two cars. That's between $1,600 and $2,000 every single month for two cars. This is why a vehicle is not a smart choice. Now, again, all this stuff adds up. And when the average household is spending more than 12% of their yearly income on transportation, that is enough to keep you poor for years to come. So, let's address what financial experts are currently recommending. If you can't afford to buy your vehicle in cash, that means outright, no payments, they say don't buy it. But at the same time, they say don't buy a vehicle in cash, to finance it. But if you cannot afford it and you cannot buy it in cash because you don't have enough cash saved up, then you probably can't afford that vehicle. That's not just a Lamborghini or Ferrari. If you cannot afford the new Honda Accord, don't buy it. Now, they also recommend that if your vehicle costs more than 8% of your monthly income, then you need to sell it and get those costs down as soon as possible. So if your vehicle costs, let's say 15% of your monthly income every single month, then you need to sell it and get something that is about half the cost. That would get you down under that 8%. They also say doing this would allow you to put more money into investments, into retirement, and even to pay down additional debt. That is key, especially in times of uncertainty, especially in times where we could potentially be in a recession here in the United States. You need to pay down debt as quickly as possible. Now, I do want to bring up one major issue that we are facing right now, and that is that even though car prices are falling, interest rates are rising. And this is pushing the average car payment up even higher. It's because of this that I caution people, do not make a big purchase like this until we have seen the market find its floor. Until the market finds its floor, I would wait. I'd be a little hesitant because, again, you don't want to overpay for something just to see over the next couple of weeks or months the market keeps going down and your car is now worth 10%, 20%, or even 50% less than what you just paid for it. Because, again, you can't return it. Now, here's my advice to you. My advice is to pay down your debt as quickly as possible. Debt on a vehicle is one of the worst things that you can have, especially when the interest rate is higher than the current rate of inflation. That means you're paying more. Now, in a time when consumer debt is more than $16.9 trillion, which is something that we have never seen in the history of the United States, we are just going to see more delinquencies on the rise. And eventually, the American people will lose what they have worked so hard to achieve, all because they really couldn't afford it in the first place. Now, here's the last thing I just want to tell you. The reason why Americans are poor is not because we need the newest and greatest SUV or a luxury car. The reason we're poor is because we make bad financial decisions. We are buying a vehicle to impress the neighbor, your coworker, your friends, or possibly even your family. Don't do that. Buy a vehicle that you can actually afford, that you actually need. Don't buy something that's bigger, better, and more expensive just because you're trying to compete with your friend, your family member, or your coworker. Buy something that you actually need. Again, this is the time that this ends. We need to stop this trend because if we don't, again, like I've said, the average new car payment here in the United States, at the end of 2022, was over $700 per month. When you factor in these additional costs, this brings us closer to $800 to $1,000 per month for one vehicle. That's a problem. If this continues, we will see this payment go up. So the average new car payment won't be $700 a month. It would be something closer to $800, $900, or even $1,000. And that right there is scary because most people cannot afford a $700 payment. They cannot even afford an emergency expense of just $450. For the average family, it says that 6 out of 10 families could not afford a $450 emergency if they needed to pay for it today. Most would have to ask friends and family. They'd have to liquidate money from credit cards. They'd have to sell things just to have that $450 set aside. So, this brings me to my next point. If you do not have $450, just savings, sitting aside doing nothing, you cannot afford a $700 car payment. Don't put yourself into that misery and that stress. This is the number one reason why Americans are poor. This is the number one reason why Americans cannot build wealth. It's simply because we're paying for things, overpaying for things like a vehicle that, again, we only drive a handful of times. So that's what I got for you guys today. Hopefully you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Consider subscribing. Do me a favor. It takes just 2 seconds. Go ahead, hit that like button, and I'll see you guys on the next one.